Welcome to A Fine Time, The Nanny Revisited. This is a podcast about The Nanny, where we recap each episode and then discuss, sharing our own unique take on each episode. I'm Bernadette.
And I'm Debbie. Today we're talking about episode 68, Your Feet's Too Big. As usual, we'll start with a brief summary of the episode. Sylvia decides to have some cosmetic surgery done in an attempt to save her marriage after a 2-week sex drought. So Fran and Gracie accompany her to the plastic surgeon's office, where they learn that as we age, certain body parts continue growing, including your feet. This knowledge is particularly timely because Fran, a former foot model, was invited to her old modeling agency's reunion, and she's worried about how her now overgrown feet will appear. Before ultimately agreeing to go with Maxwell on her arm, she has a series of dreams in which Maxwell puts the moves on her. Sylvia decides instead, wakes her up from her dreams and tells her that she has decided to grow old with dignity and honor, in no small part because her insurance company will not cover elective surgeries. Instead, she has to be in her apartment and run over by farm equipment. While Fran and Maxwell are at the reunion, where everyone mistakes him for her husband, Cece unsuccessfully tries to wait up for them. Niles takes advantage of the situation and draws facial hair on her, leading her to play into his hand when Fran and Maxwell get home. Bernadette, do you have anything you want to add?
No.
Okay, I like the contemplative, tentative answer there.
Oh, no. No, I miss, yeah. No, I don't. We'll
Okay.
talk soon.
Would you like to take us to the kitchen then?
Yes. So we open up in the kitchen and Fran and Niles are there. Niles is looking through mail and he hands Fran what turns out to be an invitation to her old modeling agency's reunion. Fran reminisces about that time where every week she had to do her hair and makeup and squish into tight clothes. She doesn't miss it at all. And of course, the funny thing being, of course, she still is doing the hair and the makeup and the tight clothes.
Yeah, exactly.
There then is a knock at the side door. Niles asks, "Who is that?" And Fran's like, "Ma." And he's like, "How do you know?" Right then, the timer dings. And as Fran's opening the door, she says, "Pie's done."
Right.
So obviously, Sylvia has a sixth sense when it comes to pies.
That must be amazing.
Yes. Instead of a spidey sense, it's a piety sense. Anyway, so Sylvia comes in. She's so upset. She doesn't even know how she got there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fran starts saying, "Well, you've got some raised pizza sauce, some sauerkraut, some sprinkles from Baskin and Robbins. I'd say you took the subway to 59th and then walked along Lexington Avenue." Um, so
Exactly.
So again, Sylvia starts lamenting that her life is over.
Correct.
Your father's not attracted to me. I even tried to surprise him naked at the door. And then she mentions they're never gonna see another Jehovah's Witness in their building.
Yep.
And Fran's like, relax. It's probably just a phase. And Sylvia goes on to say, we've had no relations in 2 weeks. And both Fran and Niles simultaneously go, 2 weeks. And Niles, they kind of talk over each other, but Niles is like, please tell it to someone who cares. But anyway, Sylvia then informs them that she's decided to get some cosmetic surgery. She's going to get her arms done. And she kind of lifts up her arms and she has her jacket, or you can see the underarm, and she kind of flicks it to make it kind of jiggle, and she's like, it's like tapioca pudding. And Fran says, "Ma, that is tapioca pudding."
Exactly.
Do you have anything to add to that opening scene?
I do not, other than the fact that the I guess flabby arm thing is a very common thing that happens as we age.
Yes. Yes.
I just feel like we need to say that.
Mm-hmm.
So then we're at the mall, right? And we're not yet at the doctor's office, but Fran's explaining why we're at the mall. that, she says to her mother that not many people would trust a plastic surgeon whose office is between Miller's Outpost and Hickory Farms. And Sylvia explains that this is the doctor that did Aunt Seal, and I think she looks like a work of art. And Fran's like, yeah, a Picasso. But so they're there. Initially, we have Fran, Sylvia, Bright, Grace, and Maggie. And so Maggie says that she has to go pick something up. She needs to go pick something up at Brooks Brothers. And Fran's like, what do you need there? And she gets this, like, Maggie gets this look on her face. She smiles and says, tie salesman. And Fran says, if I die tomorrow, I feel like I accomplished something. Meanwhile, Brighton decides he's going to go cruise the chicks at the Limited. And Fran stops him and says, wait a minute, your wallet's sticking out, all your cash is showing. And he's like, oh no, that's right. That's for when they tell me to take a hike. I want it to hurt real bad. And he walks away. And so it's now Sylvia, Fran, and Gracie. And Fran asks Gracie if she wants to go with either of her siblings. And Gracie's like, oh no, I love a doctor's office. The smell, the magazines, the drama, it makes me feel so alive. She gets really worked up over that. And Sylvia says at first, isn't that adorable? She pulls Fran aside to get out of Gracie's earshot. The kid is weird.
Yep.
Which I think is what everyone is thinking when
Yes.
Gracie talks about her love of doctor's offices.
Yes.
Do you have anything you want to add, or would you like to take us to Dr. Roberts' office?
I'll take us to the office. We open up with a close-up of Sylvia looking intently into the mirror as she kind of pulls back her arm to make it look skinnier, as if she's trying to see what it would look like after a procedure.
Right.
Then Fran kind of gets over that, so she moves the mirror, but now the mirror is in front of Gracie, and she kind of pulls the front of her dress in her chest area as if she's contemplating again what a procedure may yield.
Correct.
Then enters Dr. Roberts with the ladies, and the crowd, the audience claps because we have a special guest, and we'll talk about him in our shtick.
Yes.
Notable New Yorkers. But it's Dr. Roberts, and he starts out by saying, now who's the patient? So Sylvia, of course, is like, oh, I like him. And he then goes into this, how old do you think I am? And
which is a dangerous question to ask anyone.
Oh yeah. So Fran kind of like hems and haws. And just for our audience, he does look older, right? He has like whiter gray hair, right?
It's like gray hair and he has a bushy mustache.
Yeah. And so Fran finally answers with 55, and he goes, I'm 50. And so that's awkward moment.
Exactly.
And you know why? Because I can't go to me.
Right. He makes it better. But like, again, don't ask people to guess your age because they're not going to get it right.
Yeah.
Pro tip, guys.
Yeah. Although I will say that oftentimes people think I'm younger than I am. So.
Okay, fine. You can ask people to guess how old you are. That's fine.
But yeah. So anyway, so he's kind of giving this whole spiel, Fran's trying to warn her mother that he's just going to try to sell her a bunch of things she doesn't need, because he asks about insurance and stuff.
And if they own their own home.
Yes. And Fran starts saying, Ma, you're beautiful as you are. I hope that when I'm your age, I'll look like you. And the doctor inserts, you will.
Mm-hmm.
And Fran's like, what? And he's like, how you age is determined by your genes. And he kind of like points this over, behold the future. And Fran, of course, freaks out. Can't something be done?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yes, I can help prevent the inevitable. But then he pulls out a box of chocolates and offers it chocolate. And of course, both Sylvie and Fran go for it. And he says, enjoy it today. We can suck it out tomorrow.
Correct.
And then at this point, Gracie's kind of been skimming through some like a magazine or a pamphlet or something. And she asks, you know, Fran, what happens as you grow old when what happens when you're old as you, or something
Correct.
along those lines.
Yes,
And Fran kind of turns to her like, I lose the tolerance for little children.
exactly.
And Fran's like, no, or sorry, Gracie's like, no, your feet get bigger. And Dr. Roberts interjects, not just your feet, everything continues to get bigger. Your nose, your ears, your feet. And then Sylvia adds, your tush grows like a weed.
Yup.
And then Fran's just kind of like, oh, but that's glandular. And there's nothing you can do about glands. And this is as she and Sylvia are continuing to eat the chocolate together.
Correct.
Do you have anything to add to that scene?
I do not.
Okay, can you take us to the next scene?
Yeah, so in the next scene, we're at a shoe store, and Fran and Maggie are sitting next to each other, and Fran picks up this like burgundy red shoe, and she's like, these are gorgeous. Flips it over, sees the price tag. Oh, I can't afford it. And Maggie says, Fran, we wear the same size. I could put these on Dad's charge for me, and you could borrow them. And Fran leans in and says, don't tell the others, but you're my favorite. And this like scheming moment is interrupted by Gracie shouting, Fran, my feet grew a whole size. Remember what that doctor said? I'm getting old. I'm turning into your mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so Fran tries to comfort her and says,
Do you
as
know what
she's
she did when she says, I'm turning into your mother?
she grimaces and makes a very unpleasant whining pitch.
Yes. And then she also kind of hits her underarm.
Oh yes. Yes, she tries to jiggle the underarm fat that isn't there because
Exactly.
she's like 7. She's 10 or however old she's 10, I think. We
Yeah.
heard that in a few episodes ago. She's 10. She has nothing under there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Fran tries to make her feel better, but of course she's not gonna, pass up the opportunity to get that size 7 shoe that, is really Maggie's, but she's gonna borrow. And so she hands the shoe to the salesman and says, get me these in a 7. And so she tries to say to Gracie, change and growth could be something to look forward to. This is not a bad thing. The shoe salesman's trying to put the shoe on her foot and says, they're too small. You need an 8. And Fran's like, I don't think so. They're fine. Very comfy, like slippers.
Mm-hmm.
And so clearly she's buying a pair of shoes that, according to the shoe salesman, do not fit.
Yes.
You have anything you'd like to add?
No.
Would you like to take us back to the kitchen?
Yes. So we're in the kitchen. It's Niles and Fran again. And Fran's kind of saying to Niles, Niles, you don't know how lucky you are. Um, because again, she's very upset by the whole shoe thing. And she points out to him, and look, you still got nice small feet. There's a pause. Know what that means, don't you? A look on Niles's face. Never mind. And then Niles kind of finally speaks and says, in England, we go by the hands. And he holds up his hands that are covered in oven mitts. So, of course, they're very large, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gracie, it turns out, has been sitting at the kitchen table, and she is looking at old pictures of herself when she used to have tight skin and uh,
Nothing sagged.
nothing sagged. And she starts saying, I don't want to grow old. And Fran's kind of like, you're telling me I've got size 8 foot in the ground or
In
in the
the
grave.
grave.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then Gracie starts asking Fran, are you a lot older than me? And Fran explains to her, well, when you're 20, I'll be 40. When you're 30, I'll be 40. When you're 40, you'll understand why I'm still 40.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, it's new math, learn it.
Yep.
Maxwell and Cece have come in like a little bit before that. And Maxwell finally addresses Fran, Miss Fran, have you gotten shorter? And she goes, oh, now I'm aging and now I'm shrinking. It's genetics too. My great aunt came through the doggy door. But then she realizes she's shorter because she's wearing slippers. And, she's wearing slippers because obviously the size 7 shoe she bought before was not the correct. Um,
But did you hear her explanation?
yeah, it must have been Miss. Okay, it's a
Some
little
stupid
indecipherable.
salesman sold
Oh,
me a pair of shoes that must have been mismarked.
mismarked. That's what the indecipherable word was. Okay. um, Cece, of course, decides to put her 2 cents into the conversation. The Babcock women all age gracefully. To which Niall says, "Oh, you've always been a rebel."
Exactly.
So, Maxwell's trying to comfort Fran. All people's looks fade uh,
Eventually.
eventually. It's what's inside a person that really matters. What kind of bizarre world are you living in?
Uh-huh.
And then Maxwell continues, with age comes wisdom. To which Fran replies, yeah, and for a man, wisdom and a 20-year-old bimbo.
Mm-hmm.
And then Niles comes in with, well, he didn't say life was fair.
He's right.
So, again, though, like Fran's like trying to be serious, like her foot went up a whole size. You know, well, and again, all your appendages keep growing, and then she's like, oh, more good news for men.
Mm-hmm.
And Maxwell says, why are women so vain? And at this point, he's like sat down at the table, I believe. And
Yep.
Fran says, oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's like, I'm sure you're not bothered by this little bald spot on the back of your head. What? Yeah, you should maybe smear a little copper tone the next time you go out. He's like, mirror, quick.
Exactly.
And again, she's trying to point out, well, you said it doesn't matter what's on the outside. That's about you, not me. I'm such a successful businessman, because anybody could revive a show and all that kind of stuff. But people want to work with me because I'm, well, cute.
Exactly.
Big bushy hair, British accent. I'm a one man mop top British invasion. And Fran says, down, Ringo. Um, and anyway, it comes up again how there's that modeling reunion and she doesn't want to go where all those clodhoppers are.
With her clodhoppers. With
Oh, with
she
her
says,
clodhoppers.
she says,
And and Maxwell's trying to point out, oh, like again, you're still so beautiful and like nobody's gonna look at your feet. And she's like, but I was a foot model.
yep.
And again, this is the 10-year reunion. Um, time has I think she said ravaged me or something like that. And she's trying to point out to Maxwell that if she goes, there's just going to be a bunch of mean, backstabbing, vicious women. And Maxwell's like, then why are you going? Because they're my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you'd like to add to that scene?
Just the observation that Cece had a very similar comment about the society women in season one, in the episode My
Yeah.
Fair Nanny, about
Mm-hmm.
how the society women are backstabbing vicious women. They're
Mm-hmm.
my closest friends.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like they need new friends.
Yep. Sounds like it. Will you take us to the reunion?
I would love to. So we're at the reunion, and Fran and Maxwell are there, and Fran is saying to him, oh, Mr. Sheffield, I'm so thankful you insisted on bringing me to this reunion. Anyway, that's the story if anyone asks. And so he says, you are by far the most beautiful woman in the room. Oh, how sweet. Good reading. A little louder. No one heard you. And then someone wants to take some pictures, and Fran's like, oh, hide me. I don't want to take any pictures. And one of the women says to her, Fran, you look gorgeous. You haven't changed a bit. And Fran turns on a dime, girls, pictures. And they gather around. And the photographer says, okay, ladies, lift those dresses. Let's see some feet. And they do. And everyone reacts. The photographer gets this horrified, terrified look on his face. Maxwell looks and is horrified. And Fran finally looks down. Her feet are, 3 feet long. They're ginormous, even though they have very nice red nail polish on them.
Mm-hmm.
And she screams and no, exactly. Do you call that the end of the scene, or?
I did, but you
Okay,
can
so did I.
continue if you want to, because I've had a lot of long scenes.
Okay, I'm happy to keep going. So we then find out that Fran was actually asleep. That wasn't the reunion. And so we hear Fran saying, no, still in her dream. And then Maxwell's there and she's sleeping on the couch in the living room. Miss Fine, wake up. And she gets up. Were you having that Streisand's retiring dream again? And she says, no, don't even say that. It puts it out there. And he's like, Miss Fine, you're shaking. Calm down. And she's like, I dreamed about the reunion. I went as planned. I looked gorgeous as planned. I was even 5 pounds thinner. Just a little bonus from my subconscious. Then I looked down at my feet and they were huge. And so by this point, she's now sitting up on the couch and Maxwell's sitting on the coffee table in front of the couch. And he says, oh, Miss Fine, your feet are beautiful. And he picks up one of her feet. You are beautiful. And she says, oh, Mr. Sheffield, huh? And he says, Miss Fine, the children all have plans for this evening. You're telling me this because, which leaves you and me free to, and he's like moved from the coffee table onto the couch next to her. And she's like, two, and then they kiss.
Yes.
And it's a passionate kiss.
Like Lucy Babcock, sorry.
That's fine. We can impersonate any member of the Nanny cast in our excitement. And Maxwell's
not just a peck on the lips.
No, it is a passionate kiss, and he's moaning, oh, Fran, oh, Fran. And then we find out.
Fran!
That was really good.
Do you want to continue that?
Oh, I'm happy to.
Okay.
Fran. Oh, no, Mom, go away. I got to get back to sleep. Fran, this is very important. Mom, believe me, this is both our dreams coming true. Fran, wake up. I have wonderful news. Well, that gets Fran to sort of wake up. I'm not having my arms done. I've decided to grow old with dignity and honor. Insurance wouldn't cover it? No. Daddy's policy doesn't cover elective surgery. I have to be in our home and run over by farm equipment. Fran takes the news in stride and says, Ma, I'd love to sit here and talk with you all day, but I have something very important I've got to finish. She puts on her lipstick. Good night. And she rolls back over, grabs the pillow, and tries to go back to sleep.
Yep. Which, several things in this scene are such a mood, because the whole insurance, you need to be in your home and run over by farm equipment is such a mood. And then also, I've definitely had those times before when I wake up right before the best part of a dream, and then I try to get back into the dream. Have you?
Does that ever work for you?
I feel like maybe a handful of times out of a large amount of time trying.
Okay,
There has been a couple of successes.
Okay, you've done better than I have. I don't think I've ever been able to get back to the dream I was having, which is disappointing.
Yes, because sometimes they're oh, it was getting so good.
Exactly. Although on the other hand, I've had the opposite where something really, really bad is about to happen and I wake up and I'm very thankful. And then I'm afraid that I'm going to get put, when I fall back to sleep, I'm going to end up right where I left off.
That's true. That happens to me as well.
If it's dreams are funny things.
Yeah. Yep.
Would you like to take us to the office?
Yes. So Maxwell, Niles is in the office kind of cleaning, and Maxwell comes to Niles, the drain is apparently clogged.
So he says, that bloody drain in my bathroom is all stuffed up again. Isn't it your job to keep it clean?
Yes. And of course, Niles kind of just job. I'd say it's more like a calling.
Exactly.
And Maxwell's not amused. How about calling a bloody plumber? And you know, then then Niles is like, well, what do you think is causing, the clog? Just off the top of your head.
Bingo.
And Maxwell's like, I'm not losing my hair, and he mentions it's thick and luxurious and does a great flippy thing in front. This is Niles, I think, right?
Yes,
No.
it is Niles. Of
And
course not, sir. It's thick and luxurious and does that great flippy thing in the front.
yeah, and Maxwell tries to just kind of like fend him off, like not buying it. But then Niles says, and it looks like Pierce Brosnan's, and that gets Maxwell's attention. Really? And he kind of puffs up a little bit. I have heard a couple of people, have said that.
Right.
And again, we kind of get back to this whole thing about how Fran is so distraught, right? About growing
Mm-hmm.
older. And this is where we get Niles really coming in for us as the audience, right?
Oh yeah.
Because Maxwell
So
keeps going on about how she doesn't have a bloody problem. How do
mm-hmm.
I make her feel desirable? Niles pulls out some cologne, starts spritzing it
Uh-huh.
on Maxwell and says, you're a man, she's a woman, fill in the blanks. And and then again he grabs some like the mouth spray,
Mm-hmm.
kind of spritzes in there, and he's like, and just think, what would Pierce Brosnan do? So then we kind of shift. And I don't know if you consider this separate or part of this scene.
I can do it either way, but I do just want to mention, so what Niles says is, oh, sir, I'm sure you'll think of something. I mean, after all, you're a man, she's a woman. Fill in the blanks. The children are at school, she's lying on the sofa, and if all else fails, what would Pierce Brosnan do?
Yes. I'll let you do this one.
Okay. So Maxwell sort of takes Niles' advice and goes to approach Fran, who is still on the couch, curled up, holding a pillow, sleeping. And Maxwell sits down on the coffee table, just like in Fran's dream. Miss Fine, wake up. And she's like, oh, good, it worked. I'm back. Miss Fine, did you pick up my blue suit from the cleaners? Oh, Mr. Sheffield, I'm sorry. I don't usually sleep during the day. And she's like sitting up and trying to like fix her hair and looks a little guilty. Okay, I do, but you don't usually catch me. And he's like, Miss Fine, I don't know why you're so upset about this reunion for. You have absolutely nothing to worry about. And he picks up one of her feet and rests it on the coffee table next to him. And he has his hands on it. Your feet are beautiful. You are beautiful. And she says, oh, Mr. Sheffield, huh? And he says, the children all have plans for this evening. She's like, oh my God, wait a minute. She pinches her arm. Ow. Okay, go ahead. He's just like, I thought with the house empty, that would leave us free to, and she's like, to, and he's like, to go to the reunion together. And she's like, that's not the way it went. And she like slaps his arm. Go back, go back. Fran, Fran. We hear Sylvia saying, and she's like, no, not that far, not that far. Needless to say, she's very disappointed that her dream that sort of seemed to become a reality stopped being the dream she liked.
Yep. Such a shame.
I know.
Yep. So then we cut to a later quick scene
Mm-hmm.
where Cece is now the one sleeping on the couch. And of course, when Niles comes in with a pair of shoes and some polish, he sees Cece on the couch and grins to himself, takes the
Mm-hmm.
shoe polish and starts adding some facial hair. Specifically, like kind of it is reminiscent of like the old fashioned little devil kind of look where you have kind of like a curling mustache and a little bit of a soul patch goatee like thing. It's not full on goatee because it's separate. Um, and yeah, that's just a little quick scene.
I'm very impressed by your knowledge of male facial hair. I don't know the difference between a goatee. I would have described what he painted on her chin as a goatee.
Yeah. Well, because like it's not connected
See,
to.
I didn't know that was a qualification.
Well, I don't know. I could be making that up. Lovely listeners, let us know.
Exactly. Please let us know what the proper name for the facial hair drawn on Cece was. Thanks.
Yes, because again, it's very reminiscent of the old time devil look, right?
Yeah, like to me, I was gonna say like a cartoon devil.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah.
Do you want to
Um,
take us to the stoop?
sure. So Fran and Maxwell are on the stoop and they're talking about the reunion, that it was a beautiful night. They're so happy they didn't go right in. Fran thanks him so much for taking her to the reunion, that she had a fabulous time. And he's like, I did too. Did you know all your girlfriends were under the impression I was your husband? And Fran's like, gee, I wonder what kind of a nut would spread a rumor like that. Isn't it amazing how old everybody looked? And yet I look exactly the same. And Maxwell's like, I know what you mean. You know, every morning when I look in the mirror, I still see the face of a man in his 20s. And Fran's like, that's funny. Every morning when I look in the mirror, I hope to see the face of a man in his 20s. And Maxwell says to her, let's face it, Miss Fine, age is irrelevant. It's a state of mind. And she's like, absolutely, it's how old you feel. And then we see just how old they feel when they try to stand up from the stoop and they groan and they ache. And anyway, they sound like they're about 100.
Yep.
Do you want to add anything?
Is the mood.
There.
There are days when I feel that too.
I think we all do.
Yes. So then they walk in, and of course, that's when Cece kind of pops up from the couch. And in the interim, it seems that Niles also added some of the shoe polish to her eyebrows to make them thick. And she's oblivious. But she
Oh,
pops up,
yeah.
Maxwell! And she's trying to play this off because he's like, Cece, what on?
Yeah. So Maxwell wants to know, Cece, what on earth? What? And she's like, oh, what? I wasn't waiting up to see what time you two got home. I just stopped by after the and Niles offers theater. And she's
Where
like,
I saw, and Niles puts in Victor Victoria. Yes, yes,
correct.
that. And well, I've got to go. I've got a date. And she goes out again, none the wiser.
Oh, yeah.
State of her face. So Fran says that she hopes that date is in the village.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, Gracie comes down the stairs and she's says that she's been obsessing um, about getting old and dying. And again, Fran's trying to comfort her, and Gracie's like, "Not me, you." So again,
Yep.
Fran's saying, "Well, oh, don't worry. Like, I won't, die until I have a house in Great Neck, kids, and a husband who's waiting for me outside of Lomans." And Maxwell says, "See, sweetheart, she'll be here forever."
Mm-hmm.
And that's the episode. Unless you have something you want to add to that last scene.
Fran gave him a very dirty look.
Yes. Yep.
That's all I wanted to add.
That is the episode. So, do you have any kind of overarching thing you want to talk about before we get into shticks?
Um, I guess I just want to kind of talk about the humanity of Fran in this episode,
Mm-hmm.
in that, she has this reunion with these people she hasn't seen in 10 years. And she's really concerned about how she's going to look and how she's going to come across these people who, if they mattered to her, she would see more than every 10 years.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of like a universal feeling or concern about reunions in general.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to talk about before we get into our shticks?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
we can get to shticks.
So, favorite fashion?
Yes. So my question to you, just out
Yeah.
of the gate, because Fran is wearing something different in her dream version of the reunion and her actual reunion. Did you
Uh-huh.
have a preference between the two?
Yes. I like what she wore to the actual reunion.
Me
Um,
too.
okay, so for our listeners who haven't seen the episode recently, we'll start with the dream gown, which is like a shimmery silver gown. It's floor length. It has a thin spaghetti strap, has a scoop neck, and then it has slits on the side so you can more easily see her feet. And she's also in that wearing sandals, which to me seem very informal for a formal gathering. Maybe they're platform, or they have heels, but we can't see that part. And she has a matching shawl that is the fancy silver shimmery fabric. Do you want to describe what she actually wore?
So what she's actually wearing as it's another floor length, but the main part of it's black.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of off the shoulder and around the top is like like actual well fake floral like flowers.
Yeah, like roses.
Yeah. That goes kind of like there's a band of it that goes around the top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, do you have more description for that? is
So
it
I
is it kind of like more of a mermaid cut or I don't
Yeah,
know.
that was what I was going to get at. That it has a different cut. So like the
Yeah.
silver, the dress in her dream is basically like straight down, but it has the two
Yeah.
slits
Like
on
a
the
club
side.
dress. Yeah.
Yeah, and then this one has more shape to it. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
it counts as a mermaid or a trumpet or what,
Yeah.
but it
It's some
starts to
type of
flare.
shape.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it flares around her hip. It,
Yes.
also, we should mention that she did her hair differently. In her dream, her hair is up and it's like this big bun in the back. Um, for the actual reunion, she had her hair fully down and big and curly.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I liked her actual reunion gown way better.
Yep. I agree.
What did you think of Fran's attire at the doctor's office?
Trying to think back. Can you
So
describe it?
yeah, so she it's one of those times where I mean she has this like pattern of wearing things where it's like all black and then like a colorful top or colorful skirt. So here she's wearing a colorful top and it's red. It has polka dots, like that's the base pattern. Like it's red with white polka dots, and then it also has all these little I don't want to call them cotton balls, but imagine colorful cotton balls all over the the sleeves and the top, and then it also has some, I guess, snowflakes, maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. So that would be probably a bit too busy for me personally.
It's too busy for me as well.
Okay.
It's just notable
Yes.
because it's definitely her.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and then so what Sylvia's wearing at the end when she wakes up Fran, um like she has kind of like a red outfit with like a little rose in the front,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And I just I love roses. So that's like my aesthetic. So I'll give a little nod to that. And then it's funny later that Fran's dress has a lot of roses on it as well.
You have a very keen eye.
Thank you.
The only other fashion I think worth noting is what Fran was wearing when she was napping.
Mhm.
I'm not quite sure exactly what it was, in fairness. Like she clearly has on like a black, I'm not sure if it's a body, like a short bodysuit or what, but it just looked very uncomfortable for sleeping. Like it
Mhm.
looked like it was riding up in the back and showing too much of her upper thigh, shall we say. Like
Mhm.
I would not be comfortable in that.
Yeah.
But that's
Yep.
just me.
Yep.
Is there any other fashion you want to mention?
I don't believe so.
All right. Would you like to take us to some notable New Yorkers?
Yes. So, I have a question for you. Do you say Baskin Robbins or Baskin and Robbins?
Baskin Robbins?
Me too, but I'm pretty sure she said Baskin and Robbins.
She did. She
Yeah.
did say it, but she's wrong.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry. Not to be so blunt about it, but yeah, no, it's Baskin Robbins. The names of the founders were Bert Baskin and Irv Robbins, according to BaskinRobbins.com.
Mhm.
Which, by the way, the ice cream company has over 2,400 locations and was founded in 1945. That's
Oh,
also
wow.
according to their webpage. So.
Hmm. Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, so they are members of a Christian sect who are known for their door-to-door ministry. And that's according to our friends at jw.org, Jehovah's Witness.
Now, I think this mall has come up before, and I'm trying to recall whether it was a real or not. The City Center Mall is what
Oh,
like the stock photo is.
you're right. It did come up before. And there's apparently when this came up before, there's city center at White Plains. So
Okay.
perhaps.
If there's a couple of different stores that are name drop, Miller's Outpost, Hickory Farms, Brooks Brothers, The Limited. But there's also then, is Anne Seal a real person or a fictional?
I believe it's her fictional aunt.
Okay. Picasso.
Not fictional. He's a very famous artist known for his, shall we say, abstract art, where he
Mhm.
moved different parts of different pieces around, which is why you would not want your plastic surgeon to make you look like a Picasso.
Nope. Um, Now we can introduce who Dr. Roberts is.
Yes, we can. Where the heck are my notes? His name is, the actor's name, I should say, is John Aston.
Yep. And our lovely listeners will probably be most familiar with him, at least I am, as Gomez Adams in the Adams Family, like the live action one. Uh, that was from like 1964 to 1966.
Right.
Is that where you recognized him from, or did you not recognize him?
I mean, his voice is so familiar to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but apparently he's been in a number of the Adams Family different series. He also was in Recess.
Oh yeah.
I mean, frankly, I know him from the Nanny. So, yeah, he was also on things like Burke's Law. Let's see, Night Court, Webster, The Love Boat. So he's had quite a career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just thought it was particularly fitting because it's like Halloween time. So the Adams Family just seems very fitting. But
Fair.
yeah, but he is Dr. Roberts in this episode.
He is.
So Linda Evangelista.
She was a Canadian. She is a Canadian model known as a supermodel in the 1990s, and that's from our friends at Wikipedia.
Dr. Bombay.
The witch doctor from Bewitched.
Hmm. So we get a lot of like throwbacks. Kind of.
We do. Can I jump in with the Ray's Pizza reference from the first scene?
Oh yeah.
So according to rayspizza.com, Ray's Pizza is a family-owned pizzeria and restaurant that has 4 locations in Manhattan. They serve authentic Italian dishes, which include pasta, pizza, salad, heroes, and more.
Mm-hmm.
Yummy.
Yeah. And again, we have the Pierce comes up a couple of times.
Yep.
Which we've talked about before.
We have. He was known for playing 007.
Yes. And the one man mop top British invasion. Down Ringo.
Beatles.
Yes.
So one thing we didn't talk about was in the dream version of the reunion, Maxwell sees a poster and makes a comment to Fran that he had no idea she was in the commercial with the women playing basketball in heels. And she says, oh yeah, that might have, after 8 hours on the court, it might have looked like a pump, but it stunk like a sneaker. That is actually a reference to a series of commercials that aired, frankly, in the late, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what year, but it seems like the late 80s and early 90s for Easy Spirit shoes that they have the catch line, looks like a pump, feels like a sneaker.
Interesting.
So they have the ad on YouTube and then also on Reddit.
Yeah. There's, of course, another Streisand reference.
Yep, to the possibility of her retiring. Don't even
Yeah.
put it out there.
Man, it puts it out there.
Exactly. Victor Victoria,
Yes.
a 1995 Broadway musical based on the 1982 film with the same name, which is about a soprano who poses as a male-female impersonator. That's according to our friends at Wikipedia, which explains why it was funny that Niall said she went to see Victor Victoria.
Mm-hmm. And
I have two more.
okay, go for it.
Coppertone, that's a brand of sunblock. Brent told him he should smear a little bit on that bald spot on his head.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Village, it's a reference to Greenwich Village, which is known as being, shall we say, a little bit libertine. It's the cradle of the modern LGBT movement. And that's according to our friends at Wikipedia for Greenwich Village.
Awesome. And then I'm out. And you're
I'm out too. So
okay. So Yiddish cup.
So the word schmear, which I just mentioned, it basically means to smear or to spread, often used with cream cheese and bagels. And then did you have any other Yiddish cup? Otherwise, I have a tangential one.
I don't
Okay.
think so.
I didn't think this was very heavy in Yiddish cup. So to circle back to the first scene where Sylvia says that she, tried to surprise Morty at the door naked, that would not really be permissible under halacha. So this is something really weird and kind of interesting, that Judaism bans having sex during the day or in a really well lit room for fear that in the light the wife would be less attractive to her husband, and therefore he wouldn't be as interested or be willing to participate in the marital act, shall we say.
Wow.
According to Penine, I'm totally mispronouncing this, basically Penina Halacha, and I quote, the basis of the couple's love is infinite, transcending external beauty. But when they have sexual relations in the light, it becomes limited, dependent on external appearances, and no longer is an expression of their endless love. So I thought that was a nicer way to phrase it. From listening to a number of podcasts, there's at least one modern Orthodox rabbi who has concluded that if the couple is actually attracted to each other, it's fine for them to have sex during the day if they want, or at night if they want. I mean, not those were my prepared remarks. To step a step away from my prepared remarks, there's actually under halacha a mitzvah of ona, which is basically it requires a husband to satisfy his wife sexually. So there's this whole risk that if she wants to have sex and he's not attracted to her, he would not be able to fulfill that mitzvah. So
interesting.
If you're in the dark,
like the conversation so far has been the man not being attracted to the wife. Do they consider it the other way around as well?
Yes. But it's slightly different. So you can't marry someone you're not attracted to. Like you can't be forced to marry someone you're not attracted to, number one. But the obligation of satisfying your spouse is on the husband. He has to satisfy his wife, not the other way around.
Interesting. So then, sorry, this gets me into the thing. So then, what do you do if someone's asexual?
Good question. Not really sure that was recognized by the rabbis who wrote halacha thousands of years ago. I hate to tell you this, Judaism is pretty progressive. Even the less progressive elements of Judaism historically are more progressive than a lot of societies. But I don't think they had much concept for that.
Interesting. Okay.
I will point out that in a ketubah, so that's the Jewish marriage contract, one of the obligations the husband takes on is to satisfy his wife. So
interesting.
Yeah, he has to provide for her sexual satisfaction, clothing, food, shelter, etc. And then, of course, if they get divorced, her ketubah payment. So again, I told you, more socially liberal than a lot of other societies. Just saying, women could also ask for a divorce. That wasn't always the case. All right, I will get off my soapbox.
Okay. So 90s nostalgia?
There were a number of things in this episode, but I'll let you go first since I just went on a rant about sexuality in Judaism.
Well, again, I mean, obviously malls still exist, but I
They
feel like
do.
it's not, and this could just totally be personal experience. Like you don't go to malls as much these days, I feel like.
I think that's right.
Because I feel like there's much more of a mall culture in like in the 80s and the 90s than
I'd say
today.
even in the early 2000s, because I think that's like what we would do on a
Yeah.
Saturday if we didn't have anything to do. We would hang out in the
Mhm.
mall.
Yeah. Um, but I feel like it's not as much these days.
I agree. Also, the pictures of the mall looked dated. Like it
Oh,
looked old.
yeah, for sure.
Old cars.
Yes, definitely. Um, do you want to do another one?
Sure. In the mall, the shoe salesman to me looked dated
Oh, yeah. Like
because
having someone actually.
exactly having
Yeah.
someone actually go and get the shoe and put it on your foot.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
I'd feel so uncomfortable.
exactly. That was what I was just thinking.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if Payless is what killed off the shoe salesman or what, but like I can't remember any time as an adult having a shoe salesman wait on me like that. And if I had been in a store where I needed to talk to someone to get me the shoe, I would just not get the shoe.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Oh, side note, since we talked about shoes, I
yeah,
just personally, her freaking out over having a size 8 foot is just laughable to me
yeah.
because since I was like uh, a teenager, I've had size 10 feet.
I'm sorry. I will say that I understand why she'd be upset over that because all the cute shoes are always in size 7 and never in other sizes.
Hmm.
So I understand why she would be upset if she could not get shoes, like if her foot grew, and therefore she, I guess, I don't want to say aged out, but she sized out of the cute shoes.
Have your feet changed at all since puberty?
Um, well, so it's sort of interesting. Depending on what brand of shoe I wear a different size.
Well,
And it's
yeah.
a wide range. Like, um, yeah. My mom just mailed me a pair of shoes from home. And she's like, "Are these the right size? Or like a size and a half smaller than a size smaller than you normally order?" I'm like, "Oh yes, yes, that is correct." Like not even like a half size, like a full size small. I'm like that is correct for that brand of shoes. Those are the ones that fit me.
Mm-hmm.
Have they changed though? I truly don't know. I hope not. I mean, I remember hearing. So again, we are not doctors. We do not provide medical advice. But my understanding, I had read elsewhere that your nose, your ears, and your feet continue to grow throughout your life. And I was just like, well, super. My nose is already big enough. So that was always my concern, was my nose. But from friends who've had babies, like your feet also change when you get pregnant. So
Hmm.
something to look forward to, perhaps,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe.
I feel like mine have been pretty consistent.
Mine too. But again, I haven't tried to measure them or anything. Um, of course, also for people who've been working from home more often and wearing shoes less, that's also probably not great for our feet. Um, anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, sorry. That was a side tangent. Back to 90s nostalgia.
The old computer in Dr. Roberts' office. It
Mm-hmm.
was big and boxy, and yeah. What about the photo album Gracie was looking at?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely. So I will say, I recently did make my own photo album. Like, I made the effort to print out some because I think
Mhm.
there's something to be said about flipping through and reminiscing. But for the most part, nobody has like the physical photo albums anymore. Like, some people may do like um the photo books where they like go to like Shutterfly or another kind of business and print it out all there, but not like the individual where you like then on the back put the date and who's in it and then, put it in an album.
Right. Yeah, to me, it even looked like an old fashioned photo album.
Mhm.
And then I'm out.
Okay. Um, I'm excited to say we can finally bring back the kiss count.
Can we? Because she was asleep.
I still think it counts.
I mean,
Until we see it.
but it didn't happen in reality.
Uh-huh. So we're just gonna keep it at 8?
I think so. I think so.
Okay, fine.
I'm sorry. No, I thought about that, but I was like, it didn't really happen.
Okay, fine. So we're just gonna count ones that happen in their real life in this sitcom.
In reality. Yeah. Yes, in reality on the sitcom, because
Yeah.
you're right, it is not actually
Okay.
reality.
Well, almost. We almost got there until he suggested to go to the reunion.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, we will definitely increase the kiss count in about 2 months.
Okay.
You're like, that doesn't make me
Go to
feel any
Future
better.
Fun.
Yes, so future fun. We will be increasing the kiss count in about 8 weeks, 7 weeks. I can count 2, 4, 6, 7. Within 2 months, we will be raising the kiss count to 9, and you will be a very happy camper. That is all I will say on that front. Turning to other future, more planned future fun, we will see John Astin as Dr. Roberts in season 4, episode. I don't remember what number, but the episode's name is The Tattoo. In that episode, he will provide a consult for removing the tattoo Fran got on her tush. Fran goes to have that consultation and ultimately has it removed.
Sorry, that reminds me. Sylvia said tush. Anyway.
But are we saying that's Yiddish? Like,
I don't know.
I mean, tuchus is Yiddish.
Yeah.
Maybe tush. I wonder if tush is. Oh, okay. So you're right. According to Etim Online, tush means backside or buttocks. Shocker. It is the abbreviation of tuchus from Yiddish, or the Yiddish tuchus from the Hebrew tahat, which means beneath. So you have a good ear. I never realized that tush was actually from the Yiddish, from the Hebrew. I just assumed it was regular old English. What do I know? So yeah, you're right. Tush. That comes from the Yiddish. Okay. So Fran had a tattoo on her tush, and Sylvia didn't know about it. And she has a whole big thing about how she can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery. We'll talk about that then. But so Fran goes to Dr. Roberts for a consultation to have it removed, and ultimately does have it removed. And then more interestingly, in the episode in season 4 titled An Affair to Dismember, Maxwell holds Fran's foot in a very similar fashion, although there it's after she claimed to injure her ankle clubbing with Val, when in reality, as Bernadette pointed out, in reality on the sitcom, she had attempted to accept Maxwell's brother Nigel's proposal, but had literally missed the boat.
Huh.
So more interesting piece of future fun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. So episode ratings?
Absolutely. Is it my turn or your turn?
It's my turn.
I love it when it's your turn.
Yes. I mean, I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's my turn.
I think so too.
So I will actually give it a 5. There are a couple of things not too fond of as it pertains to some of the kids' comments at the mall, but overall, it was a fun episode. Again, I mean, I could do without like any kind of implied body shaming or anything, but overall, it was nice to see the kiss we couldn't count.
I'm sorry. It was a good kiss.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm also giving it a 5. I love this episode. I think it's delightful. I think Fran's concerns about how she's going to look and how she's going to appear to her friends are totally understandable. I like the dream sequence. Oh, as another piece of future fun, there will be another dream sequence of a more musical nature, shall we say, in I think season 5. Um, I I like it. I feel all of the audience's disappointment at Maxwell when Niles, tells him, you're a man, she's a woman. What if worst comes to worst, what would Pierce Brosnan do? And then he doesn't. But it's just it's so funny and it's delightful. And I think the way they tie Sylvia's proposed cosmetic surgery to Fran's growing feet and her concerns about aging are great. Um, there are some things about this episode that don't really hold legit, like logically speaking, like Gracie's question, like, are you very much older than me? Like Gracie's a smart kid. She could probably figure out that Fran is a bit older than her, even if she
Mm-hmm.
can't precisely pin down how old Fran is. Um, but yeah. So anyway, I'm also giving it a 5 because it's delightful and funny. So
There you have it. Anything else you wanted to talk about before we sign off?
I don't have anything. Do you?
I do not.
All right. That's all we have for you today. We hope you had a fine time with us as we revisited The Nanny. Join us next week when we'll be discussing episode 69, Where's the Pearls?
If you'd like to reach us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at Nanny Revisited. You can also send us email at afinetimenannyrevisited@gmail.com. Have a great week.